What's up guys, welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you want to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
If this town turned into the trade mecca Rimuru was planning, waves of merchants would be visiting, with adventurers serving as bodyguards. He wanted Tempest to turn into a base of operations for people like that. Adventurers could make money in assorted ways, one being monster hunting. Perhaps I could build a labyrinth for them and release some monsters inside? Would that attract a decent amount of daily traffic? A labyrinth is a dungeon, after all. If we invited people to help clear it out, that might attract adventurers with a completist bent. This could work. Rimuru looked at Ramirez, still smiling awkwardly up at him. He wasn't too sure. Okay, he was completely sure he couldn't trust her, but maybe they could make something out of this. It was time to talk things over. First, Rimuru asked Gobkyu's craftsman to dismantle the hut for him. Since they already had the materials and everything, Rimuru decided to have it relocated for use as a break room for the gate guards. Next, it was time for a strategic conference. They filed into the usual meeting hall, Gobkyu in tow.
What is going to be happening to us?
Ramirez's anxiety was making her less and less coherent. Her eyes were fixed on Rimuru now, gauging his temper.
You don't have to be so nervous. If you're trying to be polite, you're failing miserably.
Rimuru didn't intend to do anything to her, no. If she was willing to accept his offer, Rimuru was willing to overlook her excessively bold overtures. But before that, they had to go over a few things.
Gobkyu, I was thinking we could build an emergency shelter space under the arena. Is that possible?
I'm not sure it'd be safe to have one directly under the arena stage, no matter how we try to work out the structural calculations. Any empty space under the floor would cause a cave-in at the first shock wave. But if we move this space a little, I think we can avoid that problem.
Alright, I'd also like to have a door built down there.
A door, sir?
Right, make it thick and heavy, and maybe put a bunch of carved stone tablets around the frame and stuff. It needs to look foreboding.
Would there be another shelter beyond the door?
Nah, no need for that. We just need the door, is all. Right, Ramirez?
Rimuru? Are you saying that?
Gobkyu was questioning his sanity, while Ramirez buzzed happily in the air next to him. His proposal was simple. Basically, Rimuru wanted to have Ramirez build a dungeon and let her manage it. If she was gonna build an entrance in a simple wood hut, better to give her something that looked more the part instead. And given how all good dungeons extend deep underground, having it beneath a battle arena just seemed right to Rimuru. They could use the arena to train rookies during the off days, and Rimuru planned to have a potion shop on the premises. If they ran a dungeon on site as well, a tavern for adventurers looking for a quick pint on the way back from work would be a big hit. They'd make money off them, and Ramirez would have a home, a job, and a little spending money from Rimuru. It'd require mutual cooperation from both of them, but Rimuru thought it was a pretty neat idea. Once he finished explaining all this, Ramirez burst into a flurry of shouting.
What? So do you mean that, maybe, not only could I build a labyrinth and live here, but you'll even give me a full-fledged job?
I guess so, if you're willing to accept that.
Huh? Okay, so you're saying that, I no longer have to be the jobless shut-in people accuse me of being?
The proposal must have been a big shock. Ramirez opened her eyes wide, babbling on like she had been struck by lightning.
I'm so glad, Lady Ramirez.
Trainee whispered, eyes welling up. Beretta, oddly enough, seemed to be smiling at him. Rimuru wondered if that fatigue he felt before was just an act. Did he want this? Maybe, maybe not, but either way, if he's happy, no worries. After calming down a bit, Ramirez swallowed nervously.
And you'll give me an allowance as well?
She carefully asked.
Do you really mean that?
Ramirez must have been afraid Rimuru would take it back. He'd never do that. Rimuru's not that much of a sadist. Although, he couldn't give her an exact figure on her allowance yet, since that depended on sales proceeds. Better put her mind at ease for now.
I really mean it, but I don't know how much profit we'll make until we get things going. How about we say you get 20% of the profits after I deduct advertising expenses, rent, and other needed expenses?
How much do you think that would add up to?
Well, if we can attract, say, 1,000 adventurers in a day, that could net you as much as 2 gold coins, maybe?
Gaw, that much?
That's just an estimate, keep in mind. There's no guarantee it'll work out that way. None of what I say means anything until we see some real, paying customers. But if you're planning to live here anyway, it's not a bad deal for you, is it?
Ramirez bobbed her head. If she was going to squat on his property either way, she'd be maintaining her labyrinth no matter what Rimuru told her to do. It'd be smarter for her to listen to his offer, for sure. It'd grant her permission to stay and be a way to make money. Really, she only had one choice. Thus, Ramirez latched onto his head and did a little dance of joy. Rimuru took that as a yes, and he was sure Beretta and Trainee wouldn't complain. In fact, they were smiling at Ramirez, who was currently busy tripping off to her own little world.
I'm gonna be filthy rich now. No more ungrateful bums calling me a deadbeat and a destitute demon lord.
Ah well, no harm in that. It'd certainly do nothing to damage the faith her two servants had in her. Her sheer enthusiasm for the offer made Rimuru wonder just how often she had been picked on in the past. Ramirez was more excited than Rimuru was about it, so he doubts he had to worry about compliance. What's with her obsession over money, though? I didn't think a lust for riches was a common trait for a demon lord, myself excluded. Was her lack of a decent job the main issue? Her labyrinth wasn't exactly teeming with visitors. She must have been lonely, with way too much free time on her hands. It'd be great if they could attract crowds of adventurers to this dungeon, for his sake, as well as hers. They better work out a plan of action fast. Calling Ramirez back from her mental head trip, Rimuru decided to have her help rework their arena plans with Gobku. The way Rimuru saw it, they should expand the open area outside the western gate, where the highway ended, and build the arena there. There was ample pasture space for travelers' horses, as well as a vast tract of empty land to work with. Sometime in the future, Rimuru would like to lay rails on top of the highway and run trains up and down it. Ever since he decided to target noble customers for this, he had been considering what to do about their transportation issues. If Rimuru could guarantee safe passage for them, he thought it'd be much easier to attract richer tourists. But that wasn't the only goal. A rail system would make it possible to transport vast amounts of goods in one go, improving convenience and greatly contributing to town development. That was what Rimuru had in mind for the town's future expansion, so he wanted a spot for the arena that wouldn't get in the way later on. Rimuru could establish a rail station near the spot, hopefully within an hour's walk of the gate. Any farther would be asking a lot from their tourists. Having the arena within walking distance of town also made it possible to offer more hotel options in a smaller area. Unlike his old world, people here did a lot of their traveling by foot. If a journey was up to around 6 miles round trip, most folks wouldn't hesitate to hoof it, so a little distance wasn't a daunting obstacle. Those were his thoughts behind his proposal for a location, but Ramirez had other ideas.
Why, though, didn't you have empty space within town limits?
Yes, but it's occupied by Beastman refugees right now. We have streets of temporary housing laid out for them. I can't build an arena over that.
No.
Added Gobku.
We can't throw the Beastmen out of town. I think development will have to wait until after Sir Geld completes work on the new Eurazanian capital.
Okay, well, how about we just move them into my labyrinth? I could transplant the entire layout of that area inside it, so it wouldn't be too much of a burden on them.
That sounded, to be frank, absolutely bonkers. Gobku and Rimuru exchanged glances, unsure they were hearing correctly.
You mean we'd move the inhabitants in there as well?
I can't move living things around without permission, no. They'd need to willingly go in there for me. But anything inanimate or unconscious, I can whisk it all right over, no prob.
Are you serious? So you can move all the Beastmen's houses and belongings inside your labyrinth anytime you want?
Yep, you got it.
Ramirez sounded proud of it, as she should. That's the kind of skill anyone deserved to brag about. Pressing her for more detail, Rimuru learned that this was mazecraft, one of Ramirez's intrinsic skills. As the name suggested, it basically made Ramirez the supreme god of any labyrinth she created. It worked over astonishing distances, too, even affecting people and things near the maze entrance. She could even take the weapons and armor off people close by. It was a crazy power to think of, but it did have its limits. If the target's equipment had its own consciousness, a sword infused with its user's magic, for example, Ramirez couldn't affect it. You weren't exactly stumbling over sentient objects like that every day, though, so if you picked a fight with Ramirez, you'd better be prepared to get stripped naked first thing. Maybe she really did deserve the Demon Lord moniker.
Wow, I mean, honestly, I thought you had, like, zero ability to defend yourself in battle.
Sheesh, way to be super mean. You're talking to the woman they call the strongest demon lord in the world.
Come on, Ramirez, calm down. Tell me what else you can do with it.
Upon further prodding, Ramirez revealed some more details behind her abilities. Essentially, Rimuru had 5 questions for her. 1. How many floors down can you build your underground labyrinths? 2. How many days do you need to build them? 3. What kind of monsters are inside? 4. Can you change their internal structure at will? 5. What happens if someone dies in there? For a change, Ramirez gave Rimuru sincere answers to all of them. For question 1, there was no strict floor limit, but realistically speaking, she could max them out at around 100. As for question 2, one floor takes approximately an hour to complete. This figure remained steady for subsequent floors, so 100 floor labyrinth took around 100 hours to complete. Any floors beyond that consumed exponentially greater sums of magical energy, hence the answer to question number 1. For question 3, you wouldn't find monsters, let alone insects or other creatures, just arbitrarily inhabiting a labyrinth. Her previous labyrinth had monsters in the form of spirits who remained as part of the floor structure, partitioned off from the physical world but able to come and go as they pleased.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to AutisticLemur420, Michael, Arun Kumar, Bunjin Cozy de la Lisa, Swarup Sagar, Stratus Lampro, Chu Gaming, Brian Prado, Walter Obi, Amaral Tempest, Iron Comics, Runner Tatas, Daddy Longstrokes, Yusef BTR, Ankit Kumar Daharia, and last but not the least, shout out to Mahar Amith. I'll see you guys in the next video.